Parasitic Life by Sam Brailsford. What you already know. An ecosystem is all living and non-living things in an environment and the many ways they interact. Living things in an ecosystem have many needs, but more than anything else, they need energy. Energy in an ecosystem comes from producers. Plants are called producers because they produce their own food. They do this using photosynthesis, which turns energy from sunlight into food. Living things that eat other living things are called consumers. They cannot make their own food. Herbivores are animals that eat plants to get energy. Carnivores are animals that get energy by eating other animals. Omnivores eat both plants and animals. When living things die or leave wastes, organisms called decomposers break down the dead material or wastes and take in the energy. Many decomposers are microorganisms or living things too small to see without a microscope. In a food chain, animals transfer energy by eating and being eaten. Producers are at the beginning of a food chain. Animals that eat producers are next. Animals that eat those animals, called predators, are the next link in the food chain. Animals at the top of the food chain have no predators. Most ecosystems are better described by a food web. A food web is a system of overlapping food chains. Energy and matter flow through many different branches in a food web. Every organism in a food web depends on every other organism. Introduction. A parasite is an organism that lives in or on a host organism. It often harms the host. A parasite's goals are to survive and to reproduce. Parasites can be found almost everywhere. There are many different kinds of parasites. They can live on the inside or outside of the host. Most parasites are harmful, but in some cases, such as leeches, parasites have been found to have helpful medical uses. Parasitic relationships are different from symbiotic relationships in an important way. In a symbiotic relationship, both organisms benefit. In a parasitic relationship, only the parasite benefits. Parasites, the oxpecker and the buffalo have a symbiotic relationship. The oxpecker eats ticks, fleas, and insects that are on the buffalo. This in turn keeps the buffalo clean. Vampire bats have parasitic relationships with other creatures. They drink the blood of other animals. These bats often drink blood without disturbing the other creature. Ectoparasites. An ectoparasite is a parasite that lives on the outside of a host. Ticks, fleas, lice, and mites are ectoparasites. These kinds of parasites typically feed on the blood or skin of their host. Most ectoparasites have adapted to life outside their host in a variety of ways. Usually, their legs are extremely strong. Their short bodies lie flat and tightly grip the skin of their host so they do not fall off. An ectoparasite, such as a flea, spends nearly its entire life on its host. It feeds on its host and then it lays its eggs. The eggs hatch and mature and the cycle starts again. One ectoparasite sucks the sap of hemlock trees. This parasite is called the hemlock woolly adelgid. The adelgid drinking the sap of a tree is similar to a flea drinking the blood of a mammal. The itch mite is an ectoparasite that lives in the skin of its host. It can cause a disease called scabies. Itch mites are different from most ectoparasites. They lay their eggs inside the host. They do this by first burrowing under the skin, then laying their eggs. Spider mites are also ectoparasites. They spin webs on the underside of leaves of plants and trees. These mites live on the plant's nutrient-rich juices. The mites will reproduce and live on a plant until the plant has no nutrients left. Ticks are another example of ectoparasites. They feed on the blood of birds, reptiles, and mammals. A tick has mouth parts that are like beaks. These parts help it feed. A tick will wait on a blade of grass. When a potential host approaches, the tick grabs on and attaches itself to any part of the skin it can. Leeches, even though they are parasites, have been found to be useful tools in medicine. A leech's saliva contains a chemical that stops blood from clotting. A leech can help in surgery by removing pooling blood and helping to prevent a wound from clotting too quickly. Many parasites are known to be harmful to their host's health, though. Itch mites, spider mites, and ticks are examples of harmful parasites. A colony of spider mites can turn a perfectly healthy plant into nothing more than a twig. Endoparasites. An endoparasite is a parasite that lives inside the body of its host. Flatworms, such as flukes and tapeworms, are common endoparasites. Roundworms, such as pinworms and hookworms, are also endoparasites. Many endoparasites spend their entire lives inside their host. Hookworms are a kind of roundworm. They hatch from eggs laid in the soil. When a barefoot person or an animal walks on the soil, hookworms can break through the skin. After about a week, the hookworms travel to their host's small intestine. Hookworms can cause serious illness in their host. Tapeworms are parasites that can live in the intestines of animals. Often a host is infected by eating raw or undercooked meat that contains the young form of a tapeworm. A tapeworm attaches itself to the host's intestines by using the curved spines on the top of its head. Once it is attached to the host, it grows a long tail. Some tapeworms are able to reproduce on their own. They have male and female reproductive organs. Tapeworms are usually between 1/2 inch and 1.5 inches long. However, some can grow longer than 15 feet. The bilharzia fluke is a parasitic flukeworm that causes the disease bilharzia. The worm starts its life as a larva inside snails that live in ponds. People often pick up the parasite while swimming in water that has the infected snails. The mature worms are usually less than 1/2 inch long. They live on the host's red blood cells and dissolve nutrients, such as sugars and amino acids. Microscopic parasites. Microscopic parasites are too small to be seen by the naked eye. They are often found in contaminated water and uncooked food. The Giardia lamblia protozoa, which can cause intestinal disease, are often found in contaminated drinking water. When people and animals drink the water that has Giardia lamblia in it, the parasites enter the intestines. The parasites have a protective outer shell that allows them to live outside of their hosts for long periods of time. This means they don't have to stay in one host. The Giardia lamblia parasites have long thread-like structures called flagella that help them swim. The Entamoeba histolytica protozoa are microscopic parasites similar to the Giardia lamblia. These parasites can survive outside their hosts in soil and water. Humans become infected by consuming contaminated food or water. The Entamoeba protozoa start in the small intestine. Then they mature and move to the large intestine, where they burrow into the lining. Once they are in the large intestine, they reproduce by division. Parasite carriers. Some parasites find their hosts with the help of insects and other creatures. The parasites travel inside insects, letting the insects take them to their hosts. When insects are used this way, they are called vectors. Tsetse are flies that can be vectors of a parasite that causes sleeping sickness. Tsetse are found only in certain parts of Africa, and they usually feed on humans only by accident. Still, they're a way for parasites to find their hosts. One type of assassin bug, also known as a kissing bug, feeds only on the blood of mammals. Kissing bugs come out at night and pierce their host's eyelids, ears, or lips in order to feed. Kissing bugs sometimes carry the trypanosoma parasite, which causes Chagas disease. Chagas disease is an illness that causes a mild fever. Sometimes Chagas disease develops into far more serious problems. Mosquitoes and malaria. Mosquitoes are also vectors for parasites. A mosquito draws blood from a host by injecting its saliva. The saliva prevents the blood from clotting. The mosquito can also inject microscopic parasites or sporozoites into the host. The parasites can penetrate the cells of the liver where they multiply before returning to the bloodstream to infect blood cells. The toxins from the parasite make the host ill. The malaria parasite is one of the parasites that mosquitoes can carry. Sometimes symptoms of malaria can occur within 10 days of being bitten. Other times, people do not realize they are sick for as long as 4 weeks after they were bitten. Symptoms of malaria include headache, muscle aches, tiredness, fever, and chills. If an infected person does not get treated right away, malaria can lead to kidney failure, seizures, mental confusion, and coma. Sometimes, malaria is fatal. Mosquitoes that carry malaria tend to live in Africa, Asia, and Central and South America. Parasitoids. Parasitoids are a kind of insect whose larvae are parasites that eventually kill their hosts. Once parasitoids begin their lives as larvae on or in a host, living on the nutrients from the host. When the parasitoids mature, they leave their host and lead a non-parasitic life. The jewel wasp is a parasitoid that is a parasite in the larval stage. Before an adult jewel wasp lays her egg, she attacks and paralyzes a cockroach. She then lays her egg on the cockroach and buries both in a hole. When the larva hatches, it feeds on the cockroach. The shell of the cockroach protects it until it develops into a fully formed wasp. Ichneumon wasps are parasites that use different hosts at different stages in their life. As larvae, the insects feed on the larvae and pupae of butterflies and moths. When mature, the wasps feed on the body fluids of larger hosts. Cuckoos are brood parasites. They exhibit somewhat similar behaviors to parasitoids. Cuckoos leave their eggs in other birds' nests to be raised by other birds. Once hatched, the cuckoos compete for food with the other birds' young, eventually starving them. Parasitic plants and fungi. Plants and fungi can be parasites too. Mistletoe, ivy, dodder, birch tree fungus, and strangler fig are all parasitic. There are many types of fungi on Earth. Some fungi can cause growths on birth trees. Fungal growth can sometimes kill trees. Dodder attaches itself to other plants and penetrates the host's tissues in order to absorb its nutrients. Many parasites. Parasites exist in all forms of life. Ectoparasites, such as fleas and ticks, live outside of their host, while endoparasites, such as hookworms and flatworms, live inside. Microscopic parasites are the main causes of diseases such as malaria and sleeping sickness. Microscopic parasites can be found in contaminated food or water. Some parasites use vectors to find their host. Mosquitoes can be vectors for malaria parasites. A jewel wasp is an example of a parasitoid, an organism whose larvae acts like parasites. Brood parasites, such as the cuckoo, use other animals to feed and raise their young. Parasites play a vital role in ecosystems. Even though they can harm their hosts, parasites benefit ecosystems. They help to keep certain populations under control. Without parasites, many ecosystems would not have the balance they need to remain healthy.